seriously, this is Dr. Dillon. Dr. Dillon, say hello to our worldwide audience.
Thank you for watching today and supporting us.
Amen. And folks, we want you to know that if you have a story, we'd love to have you come on the Wiley Drake Show. We do 2 shows every day, Monday through Friday, one at 9 and one at 5, and then we do specials like we're doing right here.
Wiley, you know what? I'd really like to take this moment to introduce somebody. Cindy, come on over. This is Cindy Dumas.
Okay, hang on just a minute. Let's get you got to be my cameraman, so we got to make sure we get you on camera. This is live on the internet. Tell us who you are.
My name is Cindy Dumas.
Cindy, all right. God bless you. And how do you know the doctor?
Well, I work with an organization called Safe Kids International.
Amen.
And we have been doing social media campaigns in places like movies and web series where people call in or email people who are in positions of authority who can do something about protecting children like Lexi. And so, for instance, yesterday we set up a email campaign and are asking people to call in to Lieutenant Tom Tarpley, he's in the Tustin Police Department, and he has the authority to go today and take Lexi and put her in protective custody during the criminal investigation, which should be done anyway. So we give the public a way of getting their voices to the people who are in charge of trying to get them to do something.
And if someone out there is watching us on this television show and has the same needs, tell them how to get in touch with you or your organization. Would you please?
Okay, you can go to facebook.com/SafeKidsInternational, and all the information is there. There is an event page, and you can click on the event page, and the first event will be Lexi's event today, and we'll be given a phone number and an email address for Tom Hartley. You can either email him or call him, either one, and encourage him to do the right thing and put Lexi in protective custody while he's investigating.
There's my card. We do a show every day at 9 o'clock. I would welcome you on our show anytime. My studio is in Buena Park. I'd love to have you come over and be on the set with me in a little bit more professional looking situation, but in the studio to tell us about your organization. We've been fighting for the children here in Orange County for over 20 years. And we've been fighting and we continue to fight. We want to be a part of the fight that you're involved in. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for being a part of this fight. And anything we can do, please don't hesitate to call us. Come over and be on the show with me any day, Monday through Friday. And we'd love to have you come to Buena Park.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for everything that you're doing. The kids need us.
Amen. We got to save the kids. That's the bottom line.
Okay.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, some more soldiers in the battle. And we're here broadcasting. And we thank the Lord for all these folks. Anybody want to be on TV? Come on over. We'd love to have you come over and tell your story. Love to have you. Come on. That red square is your microphone and your camera. Just tell them. No, right there. Look right there.
What are you doing today here?
Beg your pardon?
What's this?
This is a live broadcast of the Wiley Drake Show, and we're here to save children. We're here to stop babies being killed, and we're here to stop the county from stealing kids from their families and ruining families. Our county, especially our county, but it's across the nation, but our county is stealing kids every day. They're taking them away, and they're abusing them and trafficking them, and we're here to stop it.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to tell our listening audience there who you are and what your story is all about.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
My name is CJ Park. My children were removed from my custody last November after I reported abuse by their father. My children disclosed abuse information to me. And
you reported the abuse and they took your children away from you.
Yes. They told me to take my children to several medical exams, and I just followed their instructions. They're the experts. I didn't know anything, so I just followed their instruction. And the third time I called, after my son reported more abuse, they turned around and said that I was abusing my children by taking them to all these medical exams that they instructed me to do. So they removed my children from me and handed them to the alleged abuser, the father. And now I'm in dependency court fighting for my children.
Thank you for sharing that. We're hearing these stories, ladies and gentlemen, all over the nation. And we're going live right now on our prayer line across the nation. Music is playing until the next caller comes on, but we have a phone number open and an access code where people can call in if they'd like and tell their story. Ladies and gentlemen, we must get this story out. The county is getting wealthy, taking our kids away. It's bad enough that they're getting wealthy on it. The terrible part about it is they're taking the children away from the families. Every story we hear is almost a cookie cutter of a previous story. We're working on over 200 cases. The county of Orange has spent, it's cost them in one case, it costs Orange County over $10 million. $10 million, and the Board of Supervisors are still supporting CPS. And there are going to be more cases brought, and there's going to be more money, and until the county wakes up and protects our children. Thank you. Anybody else want to tell their story? Come on over. Just look right there, tell them, walk up a little closer, tell them who you are, where you're from, whatever your story is.
Well, I'm Damon Moulter. I'm from San Diego. The woman that was on this same camera just a little while ago is my mom. I used to be in a situation a lot like Ruby's daughter, a lot like Lexi, where the court would not protect me, despite the fact that I made several reports of abuse. CPS would not help, the courts would not help, family court would not help, detectives would not even help. I'm from San Diego. Perhaps that can highlight the fact that this is not limited to Orange County, this is not limited to California. This issue is not rare. This issue happens all over the country, and perhaps there are cases all over the world that we've been hearing about through Safe Kids International.
Yes. Well, I pastor a church here in Orange County. I'm one pastor, one church. We're working on over 200 cases right now that if I were to tell you the details, they're like cookie cutters. The same grandmothers, the same mothers, the same stories over and over and over and over again, and yet the counties are turning a blind eye to it. The Board of Supervisors will not even return my telephone call. And we're trying to get them to do something, and they better wake up. It's going to cost them more and more money. You got a great attorney down in San Diego, Sean McMillan, that cost this county $10 million because they took a child away without a warrant and illegally. And the Supreme Court ruled that $10 million. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Supporters want to get behind Ruby. That's my standing behind. My name is Brian Claypool, BRIANCLAYPOOL, and I'm with the Claypool Law Firm in Pasadena. Many of you know me as one of the lead lawyers on the Miramonte child abuse case. In that case, we're representing 15 children and 22 parents. And the reason why I represent or mention Miramonte is because what's happened to Ruby Dillon and her daughter is a result of a pattern and custom and practice carried out by the Orange County Children Protective Services, much similar to what the LAUSD has done in the Miramonte case. But before I get into the details, I want to tell you how I came to be here real quick. About 3 weeks ago, I got a phone call from this young woman to the left of me. And I was having a bad day. I was tired. I had a lot of things I was working on. And I said to myself, I don't know if I can handle this phone call. But when I started hearing Ruby's story, I pulled over off the side of the freeway. I actually sat on the freeway for almost an hour listening to her story. And for the next 3 weeks after that, I did my due diligence. She and I have been talking daily. We have reviewed copious documents, and we have studied the Orange County CPS in detail. And I have done my due diligence on her case, and I am prepared to tell you today that the folks right here in this building at the Orange County Child Protective Services have legally kidnapped this young woman's daughter. They have engaged in child trafficking, and they have single-handedly stolen her precious daughter without any evidence at all about Miss Dillon being an unfit parent.
That's right.
On top of that, though, we have a bigger problem. This child has reported on many occasions suspected child abuse and sexual abuse by the father. This has been reported not only by the child, but it has been verified through other independent sources. And I want to take you through that because this is very, very important, because not only has Miss Dillon lost her constitutional right to be with her daughter, and by the way, one of the most coveted things that we can have as a parent is guaranteed under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is to have a family free from any interference by the government. And in this case, the government has come in and snatched Ruby Dillon's daughter. And let me tell you why the Orange County CPS should have given Ruby's daughter back to her nearly 2 years ago. In early 2011, was it 2011 or 12? 2011. Yeah, in early 2011. Can you imagine this if you were a mother? Ruby took her daughter to a restaurant. Her daughter had to go to the bathroom. They went into the bathroom, and Ruby verified that her little girl was having rectal bleeding. She immediately took her daughter to the emergency room at Hoag Medical Center. The emergency room doctor at Hoag Medical Center verified 3 very large, they're called anal fissures, which are rectal tears. It was confirmed in the medical records that these tears are consistent with an external penetration, not an internal coming out. It was external going in. That was documented in the medical records. The emergency room physician reports suspected child abuse to the Child Abuse Registry. And what does the Orange County CPS do? One word, absolutely nothing. They refuse to look at the medical records to verify what is clearly suspected child abuse. They didn't even interview the emergency room physician. They did not interview Ruby, the mother, and most important, they didn't even interview the father. And by the way, the father is represented by a prominent lawyer here in Orange County who happens to be an ardent supporter of the Orange County District Attorney. So part of what we're going to be asking for today too is an explanation from the Orange County District Attorney as to why search warrants were not immediately issued when this happened and why there has been no criminal prosecution of the father. Now, a month later, after this rectal tear is found in this little girl, there is then a report made by Ruby Dillon of her daughter suffering from what's called vaginitis. Now imagine a 6-year-old little girl repeatedly suffering from what's called vaginitis. That again is a red flag to CPS here in Orange County that this child is likely being or possibly being sexually abused. That's a second flag. And guess what happened again by the folks here in this building? One word, absolutely nothing. They didn't do anything to look at the medical records that the pediatrician had. They didn't interview the pediatrician. They did not interview the father. And again, they did not interview Ruby Dillon. And then, shortly after that, we have a report by a teacher A teacher at this little girl's school then files a report with law enforcement indicating that this little girl has reported to her that her father is sleeping with her in bed and she can feel his private part rubbing up against her buttocks while she's sleeping. Now, if that isn't enough information for anybody in this world to step in and do what's in the best interest of this child and remove that child and take that child back and give it to her mom, then I don't know what we need to find to have these folks protect children. With that report, Child Protective Services, again, dismissed that complaint. They didn't do anything. They didn't investigate it. In fact, an affidavit was submitted by the school teacher under oath, under penalty of perjury, reporting the suspected child abuse by the little girl under penalty of perjury. And that was submitted as well to Child Protective Services. And they did not even interview the school teacher. Can you imagine that? Now you tell me if that is not child trafficking. That tells me that the folks here at the CPS are on a mission to make sure that that little girl never goes back to her mom and stays with a father who has been reported for suspected sexual and child abuse, all for financial gain. The only thing worse as a parent than losing a child to death is having your child legally kidnapped by a government agency such as the Orange County Child Protective Services. Nothing could be worse. Now it gets worse. If you can imagine that, it still gets worse. On top of all of these red flags that the Orange County CPS had, there then is another report to Orange County CPS that this little girl has suffered 8 to 12 times from a uterus infection. She has uterus infections. For a 6-year-old girl to have uterus infections repeatedly, that again is another signal that there is potential sexual abuse being carried out on this little girl. You now have 5 different reports of information showing what looks like possible sexual abuse and likely sexual abuse. Again, Orange County CPS doesn't interview the pediatrician, doesn't look at any of the medical records, doesn't interview the father. The Orange County DA, by the way, at this point is doing nothing. No subpoenas have been issued, no search warrants have been approved by the Orange County DA. And by the way, there was a request made by the Tustin Police Department to the Orange County District Attorney to approve a search warrant to go search this father's home, and guess what? That search warrant was not approved. Now, in August 2012, Tustin PD believes that Ruby's little girl is in grave danger. So what do? Because these folks right here have done nothing? Tustin PD goes over to the little girl's school and removes her from school and takes her into protective custody because nobody else would protect this child. They did that on their own volition. Can you imagine that? A law enforcement agency is so worried about a little girl being sexually abused, they on their own go and take this little girl and they put her into protective custody. Now, in a civilized society, what the Orange County CPS should have done at that point is they should have collaborated then with Tustin PD and said, wow, wait a minute, this little girl must be in grave danger. We have got to take her out of the father's home and return her to her fit mother. Amazing what Orange County CPS did. To the contrary is they fought a petition filed by Tustin PD to remove the child. Yes, CPS here in Orange County fought in court to what's called quash a petition filed by Tustin PD to have this little girl be put in a safe environment. So guess what? Ruby's little girl was sent back to the father's home after all of this reported and suspected sexual and child abuse. So, 3 months later, guess what? Tustin PD again now we're in November of 2012. Tustin PD, based on probable cause and credible information and evidence, again, for the second time, takes Ruby Dillon's daughter into protective custody to remove her from what Tustin PD perceives to be an unfit and unsafe environment for this little girl. And guess what the Orange County CPS does again? They, instead of supporting Tustin PD's efforts, they fight again. They want to make sure that this woman's life is ruined and that this little girl remains in an environment of suspected child and sexual abuse, to a point where this young lady's little girl threatened to kill herself. She was so distraught about not being allowed to go back to her mother and having to go back to the dungeon that this agency forced her to go to, she threatened to kill herself. And yet, in November of 2012, these corrupt folks in the Orange County CPS filed another motion to quash the petition by Tustin PD to try to have this little girl sent back to her mom. Now, at that point, you have to ask yourself why there has been no federal investigation of these tactics, why the state attorney general is not involved, why the district attorney is not involved, when a little girl's safety is at risk, where a mom's life has been ruined. And it still gets worse. You would think at that point that the Orange County CPS would throw up their arms and submit and say, you know what? We have scammed this woman for too long. We got to put an end to this. But what do? Here's the culmination of the story. And after I tell you this, I'm going to tell you what we're asking to happen today. A couple of months ago, a gentleman that works here in the Orange County CPS goes into an open court and testifies under oath. He says that in connection with Ruby Dillon's case, he tells a judge that if anybody ever calls the 1-800 child abuse hotline, that phone call is to be rerouted to him, not to law enforcement, and not to child abuse registry. He wants to make his own laws. The Orange County CPS wants to make their own laws, like an anarchy, like a communist society. They don't want to live by the laws of this country. And on top of that, this gentleman from Orange County CPS tells a judge under oath that Ruby Dillon is not permitted to report suspected child abuse. Can you imagine that? The mother of a little girl who we believe is possibly being sexually abused is now being told by Orange County CPS that if she thinks that this little girl is being sexually abused, she should not be allowed to report that. Because this gentleman, with no psychiatric training other than a bachelor's degree, wants to take the position that this little girl can't be telling the truth, and this woman doesn't deserve to have her child back. When the evidence in Ruby Dillon's case was to the contrary, an evidence code 7, it's what's called a 730 evaluator that was appointed by the court, a court-appointed expert concluded in this case that Ruby Dillon was perfectly fit to be a mother, and that this child should be sent back to Ruby Dillon. But guess what? Orange County CPS fought that as well. They fought that as well. And what we are asking to have happen then today is the following. We need scrutiny of every single part of this corrupt machine. We need a federal investigation of Ruby Dillon's case and other cases that are pending. We have somebody here today who went through a similar situation 9 or 10 years ago with the same Orange County CPS. They haven't learned. There's clearly a patent custom and practice being carried out by the Orange County CPS to traffic children, to legally kidnap children, to fabricate evidence, to perjure themselves in court, all to deprive primarily mothers of their children for financial gain. For every case that's kept open in the dependency court that CPS is involved in, they make money. They get state and federal funding. And isn't it something? Don't all the taxpayers out there in California want to know that their tax dollars are going to an agency like Orange County CPS to steal children like Ruby Dillon's precious child? Wouldn't you as a taxpayer want to know that? $2.2 billion from state and federal funding goes into the coffer for Orange County CPS. And part of that money is being used to legally kidnap Ruby Dillon's daughter. And there are many other families throughout Orange County who have children that are in abusive situations in foster care. Their children are exposed to potential sexual abuse. And Orange County CPS is not only not doing anything about it, they're fighting efforts to place these children in a safe environment. We are also asking the State Attorney General to intervene immediately and evaluate Ruby Dillon's case, and we would like at least one or two members of the Orange County CPS criminally prosecuted for aiding and abetting the commission of child abuse and child endangerment. We are also asking, and we want an explanation from the Orange County District Attorney's Office. We want to know why the Orange County District Attorney's Office hasn't issued any subpoenas in this case, hasn't issued a search warrant, and why they haven't prosecuted anybody from the CPS to other individuals who have been involved in this case. And in fact, most important, the father. Why hasn't the father been prosecuted? And I hope that folks will look at the background of the lawyer representing the father in this case is a very active supporter of your Orange County District Attorney. So we want an investigation as to whether there's a possibility of preferential treatment being carried out as well here. And we also are asking that the Orange County District Attorney's Office immediately intervene and do what they can to put pressure on CPS and the courts to ensure that Ruby Dillon's daughter is immediately returned to her and placed in a safe environment. One last point I want to make to show this triangle of corruption that's taking place at the the triangle of corruption that's taking place in the Orange County CPS doesn't stop with the CPS. The lawyer who was requested by CPS to be appointed on behalf of the minor child has a conflict of interest because he was previously represented in another criminal matter by the lawyer representing the father. And remember, the lawyer representing the father is a strong supporter of the Orange County DA. So we need a state and federal investigation to clean house from top to bottom. Nobody is immune from scrutiny on Ruby Dillon's case. Anywhere from the judge at the top on her case, on why that judge is allowing this to happen, all the way down to CPS officials, all the way down to the lawyers in the case, and all the way down to the father. Everybody is subject to scrutiny. Ruby Dillon, as the mother of this little girl, deserves that scrutiny. She deserves answers, she deserves accountability, and most important, she deserves her daughter back. Every night before she goes to bed, she looks at a picture of her and her daughter on her nightstand. Orange County CPS has legally kidnapped her daughter for the last 15 months, and we're going to work every day tirelessly until her daughter is returned, and then we're going to be filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Orange County CPS, we're going to be asking for $1 million a month. And I hope they hear that. $1 million a month. They're going to pay her for every month they've stolen her daughter from her. And then when we finally get her daughter back to safety, we're going to be filing another federal lawsuit against Orange County CPS on behalf of that little girl. And we're going to be seeking much more than that for that little girl's life being ruined. A precious child. I'm a single father of a little girl who is exactly the same age as Ruby Dillon's daughter, a 7-year-old little girl. 7 years old, my daughter. And I will not sit here as a father, a single father of a little girl, and tolerate this. Nobody in this community should. So when we get that little girl back to safety, we're going to file another lawsuit against Orange County CPS for destroying that little girl's life. Imagine how helpless Ruby has been, how helpless that little girl is. An agency that is supposed to be working in the best interest of a child is out there ruining the lives of a parent and a little girl. Thank you.
Ruby, I have some questions. Can you just tell us what this has been like for you?
It's been the most terrific experience any parent could ever go through. I could never imagine that this could happen in the United States of America. It's the most helpless feeling where you don't know where to turn, you don't know where to go. I had, law enforcement didn't do anything. I had multiple doctors that reached out. They tried to call the DA's office, mutual doctors, they tried to file police reports, and there was just nothing that anybody could do. And I found out this agency has no accountability. There's no place that you can turn where somebody will come out and help you. And I'm just so thankful that I found Brian, because I just didn't know. I thought there was no hope left. It's just the most heinous experience you can imagine.
Are you able to spend any time with your daughter?
I have not seen my daughter since December 27th of last year.
And how was she at that time?
Very sad. She doesn't even look like the same child anymore. I look in her eyes and there's just nothing there. She just looks hopeless. I'm hearing from other people,